Good morning. Okay, so we're going to move on today and we're going to start talking about exponents and order of operations. So you should have learned all of this last year when you were taking sixth grade math in fifth grade. So we're just going to do kind of a quick review. So first of all, this right here is read 3 to the fourth power. So the number 3, the big number on the bottom, is called your base. And the little number up in the upper right-hand corner, that's your exponent. So we read this 3 to the fourth power. 3 to the fourth power. All right, so solve 3 to the fourth power. So 3 to the fourth power, you're going to take your base of 3 and you're going to multiply it times itself 4 times. So we're going to do 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my first set of 3's. Well, I know 3 times 3 is 9, and I know another set of 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 9 is 81. So 3 to the fourth power is equal to 81. All right, so this next one, now if your exponent is a 3, we call that cubed. You could say to the third power, but in middle school and high school math, whenever your exponent is a 3, you're going to call that cubed. So this means 5 to the third power, or 5 cubed. So this means 5 times 5 times 5. So I'm going to take my first set of 5's. 5 times 5 is 25. I'm going to multiply that times 5, and that's 125. So 5 cubed is equal to 125. This next one has an exponent of 2. And if your exponent is 2, we're going to call that squared. So 6 squared simply means 6 times 6, and we all know 6 times 6 is 36. Something you might not have learned before is if you have an integer inside of parentheses with an exponent outside of parentheses, this is what that means. So this means -4 times -4. Now notice I said times, but I didn't write times. The reason that I didn't write times is because in middle school and high school math, you're going to learn when you have a set of parentheses sitting right beside another set of parentheses, that always means to multiply. So now we're going to go to our rule of multiplying two negatives. Two negatives equals a positive. So that would be 16. -7 squared means -7 times -7. Negative times negative equals positive, and 7 times 7 is 49. So -7 inside parentheses squared is equal to 49. But that is different than this. So take a careful look at this. So this versus that. Notice the one that we already solved had parentheses around the -4, and this one that we're looking at right now does not. If there are no parentheses around that, you're simply going to do 4 times 4, and we know that's 16. Now this negative out here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little parentheses around my negative sign out here. I could call that negative, or I could call that -1. So I'm going to take my answer of 16 now, and I'm going to pull that negative sign from in front of my -4, and I'm going to multiply my answer times -1. So that answer would be -16. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to put a parentheses. Let me choose blue so you can see what I'm doing down here. So I've got -7 squared. I'm going to put parentheses around that negative. I'm going to call that -1. So this is like -1 times 7 times 7. Let's see what would happen then. -1 times 7 times 7. So 7 times 7 is 49, but 49 times negative 1 is negative 49. So notice the difference between those two. All right, last page of notes. So this should all definitely be a review. Order of operations is what we're going to focus on next. Order of operations. When you're solving a problem with more than one operation, the first thing you always want to look for is a set of parentheses. Next thing you want to look for are your exponents. So remember, that's if you see something like 5 squared. Next thing you want to look for is multiplication and division, but those go from left to right across the problem. And the very last thing that we're going to solve, going from left to right, is addition and subtraction, from left to right across the problem. Okay, so let's go ahead and try. We're going to try 5 problems together. So the first one that I'm focusing on is right here. I've got negative 3 times negative 5 squared. Now remember, this is the one inside parentheses. So the first thing I'm focusing on is this negative 5 squared right here. So remember, that means negative 5 times negative 5. Negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. So now I have negative 3 times 25. That's negative 75. That would be your final answer. Next problem, 4 times negative 4 minus 6 squared. Okay, now the first thing we look for is parentheses. There is a set of parentheses, but is there an operation to solve inside of my parentheses? No. The only reason that there's parentheses there is to differentiate between your dot and your negative sign. So it would look kind of weird if you had 4 dot minus 4. That looks a little confusing. So the only reason there's parentheses there is to distinguish that negative 4. So we actually don't need to pay attention to that set of parentheses because it doesn't involve an operation. All right, so my operations are multiplication, subtraction, but I do also see an exponent. So that's the first thing I'm going to focus on over here is my negative 6 squared. Okay, so remember that is like negative 1 times 6 times 6. So that would be negative 36. And then over here, I've got 4 times negative 4. Positive times a negative is a negative. So now I have negative 16 minus 36. Now we go back to the rules of integers. Same sign, find the sum. I have 2 negatives, so I'm going to slide over here and find the sum of 36 and 16. And anytime you're combining 2 negatives, your answer is going to be a negative. Final answer, negative 52. All right, we're going to try 3 more. Negative 6 times, so notice that I'm reading this as times. That parentheses right there means times. Negative 6 times negative 2 minus 5 times negative 4. All right, so, whoops. I do have parentheses, but it does not involve an operation. So I have 2 multiplication problems. I've got negative 6 times negative 2, and I have negative 5 times negative 4. So negative 6 times negative 2 is positive 12. Negative 5 times negative 4 is positive 20. 12 plus 20 is 32. Final answer. Number 4, so I'm looking right here. So I've got a lot going on here. I see absolute value, I see division, I see an exponent, subtraction, and another exponent. So do I see parentheses? No. So I'm going to go ahead and find the absolute value of my 12, and that's 12. And then I'm going to solve my exponents. So negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. And I'm going to solve my other exponent. 3 squared is 9. So now I've got 12 divided by 4 minus 9. Division comes before subtraction. So I'm focusing on my 12 divided by 4. That's 3. So 3 minus 9 looks kind of weird, right? This goes back to the rules of adding and subtracting integers. My 3 is positive, my 9 is negative. Different signs find the difference, so we're going to subtract. The difference between 3 and 9 is 6. And we had more negatives in the problem, so that answer is going to be negative 6. Last one. Okay, now this has something really special going on here. See this fraction bar right here? What we're going to do first is we're going to solve everything on the top of the fraction bar. So I'm focusing right now at all of this. And this down here said 16, I think it just said 16 minus 9 down here. I think that was 16 minus 9. Okay, so on the top I have addition and an exponent. So I'm going to focus on my exponent. So negative 2 cubed, if the negative 2 is inside parentheses, that means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. Well, negative 2 times negative 2 is 4, and 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Okay, so I've just solved that. In front of that, I have negative 20 plus negative 8. Same sign, find the sum. I've got a negative 20 and a negative 8. That's negative 28. Divided by, remember fraction bar always means divided by. So 16 minus 9 is 7. So this is what I have to solve. Negative 28 divided by 7 equals negative 4. Alrighty, if you are at home and you have questions, just email your teacher and we will get back with you as soon as we can. Have a good day.